Look what happened. It came out cutting the... So for some reason, it didn't align according to the grid, but it started cutting right at the top of the mat. And it ruined the patterns of this material. Okay, as per your request, I'm doing a video demonstration of the Cricut machine trying to cut this simple faux leather, also known as vinyl material. Here are some examples of the cutouts that were done poorly. So again, I have a few examples showing these were done on the rotary blade. Right now I'm doing the setting to use the fine point blade as it's suggesting, and we're gonna see how it turns out. Yeah, 3 poorly done runs over here. I do have an example earlier on when it did cut out properly. I can't remember if this was on a rotary blade or on the fine point blade, but again, I've only had the machine for less than 3 days, 2 days, I'd say, and I haven't been using it that extensively, but it's already performing very inadequately or very poorly so far. So here's the live demonstration. Yeah, there's also some delays with this from time to time, but there it goes. So again, I'm gonna be doing this demonstration run on with the fine point blade first. We'll see how it turns out. I do have some more cutouts of the same material again, and we're gonna try it on the rotary blade after to see how that turns out as well. So again, originally it was looking good for my little project here, and since then it's been wasting quite a lot of material with these very poor cuts. So it's finished now. Let's have a look. Okay. This may have turned out okay. Yeah, fortunately it looks like this one might be pretty decent. Let's have a look. Okay, yeah, not too bad. It wasn't fully cut out, but this is much better than the results I was getting previously with the rotary blade. So yeah, just a little bit stuck here. But let me put this phone down and then set up so that I can try with the rotary blade as well, and then we'll see how that goes. Okay, so I've set up the material again, and right now I'm going to put it on setting for leather 1.4 because I know from my experience that this is going to be putting the rotary blade as the suggested tool. Again, I just did the previous session with the faux leather using the fine point blade, and the cutout came out all right. Again, there were a few pieces that were stuck. I had to pull out manually. But now I'm going to test this again using the rotary blade to see how it turns out. So let me just swap it out from here. Okay, so tight. Okay, let's see how long it takes to process. Pretty quick this time, which is good. Okay, so let's see how this turns out. Yeah, so yeah, I think there's an issue with maybe the rotary blade itself, or the rotary blade and its compatibility with this particular type of material. Obviously, it's not cutting out as I would hoped it to, and kind of sharing the same results as these previous issues. So there's these ones I cut earlier, same with the rotary blade, and here's just another live example of how it's turning out. So if you hang tight, I'm going to actually load this last sample sheet and try it again on the fine point blade, and then log those results, and then I'm going to continue to use the rotary blade with a different type of material to see how the results come out. Determine whether or not there's an issue with the rotary blade or what the case may be. And again, it's hit and miss. Sometimes from my use thus far in the first 2 or 3 days that I've had this machine, mixed results. Again, sometimes it seems like the rotary blade is cutting out smoothly as I want it to for certain materials, and then other times it doesn't, such as in this case, and then vice versa. Sometimes the fine point blade cuts really poorly, and then other cases it does pretty good, like I just saw there. So again, I'm going to test it out one more time with the fine point blade on this material, same cutout, see how it turns out, and then I will log those results. Thanks. Okay, so here we go one more time. I have loaded in the fine point blade, put my material on the mat, and I'm going to change my settings from leather back to faux leather. It's going to turn into suggesting a fine point blade as I have in there, and I'm going to feed the machine. Okay, I'm gonna hit go. Okay, it's pretty smooth. Again, sometimes I do experience maybe like a 10 to 20 second delay between pressing the go button and actually operating. So it's good to see that it's actually moving a little bit quicker right now. Looks like it's doing a pretty smooth job as far as I can tell. So hopefully the solution to this issue is a matter of just making sure that I use the fine point blade instead of the rotary. But I still need to do some diagnosis on what's happening with the rotary blade and why it's not cutting smoothly. Whether it's just a matter of this material and I've been confusing with some of the other materials I've been using, or if there's actually an issue with the rotary blade itself. So peeling this off with one hand here. See how the pockets came out, these cutouts. Okay. Yeah, it's a little bit of a slight overhang it seems, but I can probably just peel these off. Okay, so I'm gonna grab another material and then try out the rotary blade and see how it goes from there. So again, it seems like this material is cutting much better with the fine point blade instead of the rotary blade. I want to continue to do some more tests to see how the rotary blade comes out. Okay, so next I'm going to be testing out this material. This is a textured faux leather, similar in thickness to this material I just previously tested. It just has like a textured, shiny finish. But again, the thickness is pretty much the same. You can kind of tell from the backing that it's the same product. So I'll first use the fine point blade, as I successfully worked for the previous test, and then if it works fine, then that'll be good. If not, we'll give the rotary blade another test, and then we'll see how that looks afterwards. So got the settings. I actually clicked pressure to more because I feel like it might be a little bit, because of that texture, it might be a little bit thicker. I could try default, but again, the results from the previous cut weren't fully flush, which is why I'm doing more this time around. So I'll see how that turns out. I'm just gonna feed the machine again. Okay, good to go. Yeah, pretty good processing time today. This is actually the same material that got caught into the machine a couple of times, or one of the couple of times that it's been caught. So it has a tendency to like lift when it's cutting. We'll see what happens. Yeah, it's happening again. So fuck. Well, I finished. Let's see how it comes out. Yeah, something going on with this. Let's see. Okay. Gotta put my phone down to try to wiggle this out. Okay, I got it there. Yeah. Yeah, so it didn't cut as cleanly as I was hoping it to, which is a shame. Again, this is kind of showing that, you know, setting it as a faux leather, which is, I guess, what it would be. I mean, I can send in some samples of like these literal materials that I'm using, and maybe you guys can kind of report back to me, tell me what blades would work to kind of do clean cuts. Again, it's been, I don't know, maybe this is just because it got caught up or something. I don't know, I didn't cut through everything as smooth. It's pretty poorly done, comparatively speaking, to the previous one that I got cut out. Sorry. So I'm gonna try this again, I guess, maybe with the rotary blade, and then see how that turns out. Okay, well, here's a really quick intermission video. I was thinking to flip the mat completely around. I haven't used it on this side yet. It's a little more sticky. Maybe that would help with like keeping this material down and preventing it from lifting and getting tangled or jammed like it has on the previous video, as well as in past attempts where I didn't record it. And again, maybe it's not the right move either to just use this mat for this particular material, even though it is kind of basic thin material. This is the light grip, so maybe that's for just like basic cardstock. This one is like, I've been using it quite extensively, so not extensively, not like too much, but I've been using it more because I know that I've been working with fabrics, and I feel like it's lost a lot of its like tactility. So I need to clean this off before further experimenting with different types of fabrics to see how well you can keep it on without loosening and then getting tangled up in the machine, because I was previously using this cutting mat in the cases where the materials had gotten caught inside the machine. So maybe it is a matter of cleaning this mat to get back the stickiness and then testing it from there. But I do want to continue to do a few more tests for now before I do my research on products that will help clean the mat and get back the adhesiveness, just to kind of showcase, like, with full transparency, my experience with the Cricut Maker in it's been 2 or 3 days that I've had it. Today will be Friday, got it on Tuesday. Yeah, but this would be like the 3rd day that I have it right now. So yeah, that's it. I'm trying to be as forthright as possible to give my feedback and my experience with the Cricut machine, because it is a new product on the market. My first time using a Cricut machine. I did have expectations with regards to how the cuts would turn out, and unfortunately it's kind of let me down in some regards so far. Again, it's only been a couple of days in, and I mean, I don't know if it's gonna get any better at this point. I don't expect the blades to have been worn out from my use yet. I mean, I really haven't used it that many times. I probably use it like 20 times in total, just experimenting with different materials and cuts. And again, I really haven't been using anything that's been too complicated. The thickest material that I've been using is more or less this, maybe a little bit thicker. I can go show that in some follow-up videos that I can I'm probably gonna consolidate all these videos into one, maybe do like a little bit of editing just for making it easier to get to the points. But again, I really want to give this feedback video just so you know, as a customer, my first-hand experience with the machine. Thanks. Okay, back again with some more cutouts, and I'm going to continue to do some live video recording of the process. This is the material I'm going to be working with next. This is what it looks like on this side, on the air side. This one's actually with some ironed on interfacing to make it a little bit thicker for my project. And here it is naturally in its normal form. Again, comparatively speaking to these ones over here, it's more or less the same thickness. Again, this is when I went to the textile store. This is called the faux leather vinyl patterned vinyl. I don't remember the exact name, but that's more or less it. Again, it's very similar texture to this, which again has a very hard time cutting with my existing rotary blade, but seemed to do okay with the fine point blade. So I'm going to continue this experiment or this live demonstration, trying to cut this, which is a similar material, on my mat here, and I am using the fine point blade, and it's showing up as so in the settings over here. So let me just quickly put this on here. Okay, lined up. It's tricky with one hand. It's kind of weird. It feels like it's going in a little bit deeper on this side. I don't know if that's actually the case. This isn't aligned properly anymore. Alright, whatever. Slide it in as it's supposed to, feed it, and then we'll go from there. Just trying to make sure it sticks on so it doesn't lift. Again, I'm going to clean the other fabric mat and then test it again from there. So yeah, this is what I talked about. Like clicking the Cricut button, sometimes there's a bit of a delay. I'm just gonna let it naturally ticker off for a few seconds, and then I'll show what I normally do to kind of wake it up, which is usually just kind of scrolling a little bit, and there it goes. So maybe that's something that you guys know already, or I don't know, but again, sometimes it has that issue. Okay, you know, it looks like it might be turning out okay, which is a good thing, obviously. I want this thing to work. Let's see here. Okay, that's great. So, looks like it is peeling off pretty well. Okay, I'm going to try it with the iron-on interfacing. I think that this may have caused an issue in the previous tests, which is why I'm trying to showcase this in this current video. And then again, there's a few other materials I want to go through just to kind of evaluate whether or not they can be cut, or if there's an issue with my blades, or if I need you know, the forthcoming knife blade. I don't know, I'm just trying to figure all this type of stuff out, because again, I've been using the machine, I've been having some hopeful expectations of what it can do, and you know, hopefully you know, these types of results are what I'm aiming for. Again, this is probably one of the better cutouts. Doesn't do a perfect job of like peeling off these slits, but then again, I can use some scissors to snap off the little final threads there. But again, that's kind of what I'm aiming for the most part. And again, it just sucks to see when things like this happen. Maybe it's a matter of like, you know, improper use on my end by trying to use the rotary blade, which I still haven't gotten to yet in terms of like seeing if it does work on some other fabrics. Obviously it doesn't work with like these faux leathers, which is, you know, what's being indicated on there. But again, it's like all the materials that I bought from the textile store. All these are categorized as faux leather / vinyls, and they're roughly the same thickness. And again, as I just demonstrated in one of my previous video segments, when I tried using the fine point blade, you know, under the faux leather category, which is definitely what this is categorized as, it doesn't do a good job of cutting all the way through. And again, that may be an issue with like the adhesiveness. I'll test this again. I'll cut out another square sheet of this and test it again on this mat a little bit later, as well as testing it on a cleaned out version of the fabric grip mat, and then we'll see how that looks. And then again, got a few other materials still to test. Okay, and not to get too distracted or sidetracked, I'm going to continue by doing cutout with the same material, but then with the ironed on interfacing, and see how those results pan out as well, before I move on to some other materials to test finally the rotary blade to evaluate what's happening with it. Again, this is going to be turning out like slightly thicker than the previous sampling, but again, I'm going to keep it on the same settings as faux leather with more pressure, keeping inside the fine point blade. Just bear with me for 1 second. I'm going to see if we can set this up somehow. I'm going to make use of my hands here. Okay, got that lined up a little bit better. Okay, feeding it in. Hit the go button. I might need to just wake it up. Yeah, this is probably the case. The interfacing doesn't work too well with the fine point blade, so I believe it's terrible. Okay, well, see how it turned out. Mangled. Maybe it wasn't ironed on well enough. In case, yeah, that was a poor showing. Don't know what I'm going to do with this. Wow. Let's see here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just cut off this piece here, and then just do like a smaller test using the rotary blade to see how it cuts, quote unquote, ironed on interfacing. Maybe it's the issue with the actual interfacing material. Again, I'm gonna pause this video, cut this, and then reset with like a different sample cutout, and then we'll see how that looks. And then again, I'm gonna get some other materials to test as well shortly. Okay, here we go. I cut out a little patch. I'm gonna do a new test, so I'm gonna open a new project. Please. You can use a very basic small circle. Very basic. It's gonna automatically adjust. Okay, should have more than enough real estate space there. Let's see here. So it's about 2 inches by 2 inches. I've got a little bit more than that, but it might cross over onto the regular backing, but which is good. Maybe not. I still just want to test it out. So click continue here. I'm gonna set the material as a when it loads, a 1.4 inch leather, because I know that from my trial runs this is going to be suggesting the rotary blade, which is what we want to get done next. We already know what happens when I use the regular fine point blade. Where did I throw that? There it is. Yeah, so regular fine point blade on this iron-on interfacing. This is the result, so I want to avoid that. Again, I have had some sample pieces cut out with the iron-on interfacing. Pretty smooth when I was using the rotary blade previously. So I'll see. I'm just gonna set this down again and then quickly set up here. So by the way, I'm just swapping out the blades. I'm just gonna clean this as well. Okay, anyways, I'm getting the rotary blade, making sure that the gears line up. Pretty simple to make sure. Okay. Rotary blade in. Good, feed the machine. Okay, I'm gonna hit go. Just wake the machine if it's not loading. Nice and quick. That's good. Let's see how it looks. It's smooth for sure. So I didn't cut through. I don't know what's wrong with it. If it's dull already, I don't know how it's possible. I've literally used it like 10, 15 times maybe, the rotary blade. But I don't know. I don't know why it's not cutting properly. Like it's making the shape. Maybe it's too thick or something. I don't know. I'm gonna search for some other basic materials. And then make sure that, you know what, I'll actually get a 1.5 millimeter leather, like a legitimate piece of like leather. And again, it's in compliance with what the setup is saying over here. So I should have a piece of leather down here. So I'll use. Let's see here. Okay, so I will use this. I was planning on saving this for pattern making because leather is kind of scarce in terms of like quantity. I'm just gonna pause this video and then get set up. I may actually grab another piece of leather because again, I was planning on saving this and this, but still gonna be like, approximately 1.4 millimeters or less thickness using the rotary blade, and we'll see how that goes. Perfect. So I'm back with a scrap, same leather actually as I was showing earlier, but this one I can use for this circle cutout demonstration, and then we'll see how that goes. So let me just place this down. I'm actually just going to quickly cut it because I noticed that if it's hanging loose on a few ends, then it's going to curl. So I'm just going to cut a little square to make a little circle. Okay, here we go. 2x2, which is what the specifications were earlier for this circle cutout. And let's go ahead and hit, oops, wrong button. Make it, let's do this from scratch really quickly here. Continue. As I said, leather 1.4. Default, rotary blade, matte, feed it. Good to go. Okay, nice and quick circle. Let's see how it came out. A little bit better. Still not cutting through though, so I don't know what to say. I want to put on more pressure. I'm gonna do like another. See, I'm thinking, you know what? I'm gonna replace this, but I will come back to this after. Like what I wanted to do was just recut it, but then again, that may be. I've noticed that like cutting it, placing it, cutting it, and then when it doesn't cut all the way through, and then I try just like not even taking the fabric off the mat and then just sliding it back in place and cutting it again. For some reason, it doesn't align, and then it'll cut like one circle here, and it'll cut like on the, I don't know why it doesn't do proper recuts. That's the word I'm looking for. Like, there has to be a way for this machine to properly recut material better. Like when it doesn't penetrate entirely through the first time, it should be a simple process to feed it back into the machine. Again, without like, I don't know what I could have done to have caused it to make a different size circle. It's literally feeding it in, noticing that it doesn't cut all the way through, and then clicking recut. You know, I probably should have just done it for this demonstration video, but what I will be doing right now is cutting another piece of this leather, and then clicking more pressure instead, seeing how it turns out, and then again, if it doesn't cut all the way through, I will go ahead and try to do a recut, and then show whether or not the recut alignment is proper or not. So I'm gonna do all this in one quick take right now. Just gonna set these leathers aside so I don't confuse them for later. Okay. Grabbing another scrap. Okay, so here we go. Another smooth piece of leather. Lining it properly. Doesn't uncurl. Again, I know that I should probably be using a better grip mat, but this should be good enough for this test run here. Again, same size circle. Changing the pressure to more. Feeding it in. Yeah, so more pressure didn't do the job. It's still having an issue with cutting all the way through. Again, this is not really thick leather. It really isn't. Maybe the introduction of the knife blade will really make the difference that I'm hoping for. Or maybe there's an issue with the rotary. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what the rotary blade's designed to cut. I mean, it's 1.4 millimeter leather. I mean, I can find even thinner leather and kind of test that out again. I don't really know where to go from there. But what I will do is I'm going to do the recut as I was previously talking about. So just going to feed it in again. Okay. There you go. If I can zoom in on this, you'll see. Look. Line number 1, line number 2. I don't know why it does this. It doesn't do proper alignment for a recut. I never even moved it. I'm gonna do it one more time. It still hasn't cut through, so what's there to lose? Again, this video is literally for the sake of showcasing my experience with the machine and trying to gauge whether or not there's like an issue with the machine, whether there's an issue with the blade. I don't know. I don't think I'm doing anything too mistakenly on my end here. I'm just literally using the machine according to the instructions. Leather really isn't that thick, I don't think. Maybe I could be wrong. Maybe it is thicker than 1.4 millimeters. I don't know. I'd love to like send all these materials in that I'm working with and then getting some sort of an assessment. But again, just do my best to showcase. Look, another third line. I don't know if it detects maybe that there's already been a line cut. If you can see this, there's literally none that went through. Oh, maybe they did. Let's see. So it's kind of pierced through a little bit. But there are three cuts. 1, 2, 3. So I don't know what the deal is with this recutting. Clearly I can't cut through this material. Maybe I could switch this one to, yeah, let's just do all this in like the same video here. Just gonna switch this. Kind of playing around with it intentionally just to kind of see what's happening here. I don't know why. Zoom in on this. Used for 3 days. This is the 3rd day, so I don't know what's going on. It hasn't been able to perform as I hope it could. And I haven't been keeping the best of track with regards to like what blades I've been using for, you know, which of my previous sample cuts, but that's why I'm doing everything right now on this video to kind of just deconstruct and evaluate what's happening here. So again, this video alone has already been 10 minutes, and again, I have like 6 or 7 previous ones, so I need to do a bit of editing, but I don't want to leave anything out, obviously. But this is like a full-on, real review of like what I'm experiencing right now. Okay, so let's see how the fine point blade did. Same cutout. Again, I'm doing a quote-unquote recut. Give me a little bit more. Still not enough. Maybe I gotta put this material to the side until the knife blade comes out and then test it again from there. Again, I'm open to cutting some of this out and then sending it in and then having it evaluated to see whether or not any current blades or current Cricut machines are able to cut through this. I don't know why I'm having so many issues. Simple piece of leather, very, very basic. So it's quite disappointing to see these particular results. Again, I'm gonna scrounge for some of the other material I've been working with and sampling, and then go from there. Again, I'm gonna try to be mindful of the time as well, though. So I will take some time to edit all these videos that I've strung together in the last like half an hour or so, and see what comes of it. Thank you.